Welcome to Encounter with Cayds, where the mission is to help and encourage us to encounter and follow God in all aspects of our lives, according to His truth and the truth of who He calls us to be. Hey there, it's Cayds. I hope that you're doing well wherever this may find you, wherever you may be listening from. I hope that you're doing okay. Hope you're having a great week so far. I'm looking forward to spending some time with you as we reflect on and explore a little bit of Psalm 2 together. So that's coming up very shortly. But before we get rolling into that, feel free to follow or subscribe to the podcast if you would like to on whatever platform you may be listening on. That way you can stay up to date whenever there's some new material out, a new episode. And also feel free to head over to our socials as well and follow us there. You can find the links for those in the descriptions of the podcast. I particularly would love to engage with you. I would love to hear from you, hear stories of how God is working in your own life, maybe how He has been speaking to you through this podcast even, or just in other areas of your life, in your circumstances, situations, whatever it may be. I always find it so cool and encouraging when I hear the stories of how God is working in other people's lives. So I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you in that way and love to be able to continue to encourage you and each other, that we could all really band together and just celebrate what God is doing in the lives of each other. So that all being said, let's continue. We had a look at Psalm 1 in the previous episode. If you'd like to check that out, you're welcome to go back. We're just going to be checking out a few Psalms for the next few episodes and taking some time to reflect and explore them together. And I hope that you could use it maybe as a bit of a devotional time for yourself. Maybe do it with a few other people in your life where you can discuss the psalm as well. So what we're going to do is we are going to turn to Psalm 2. If you've got a Bible with you and you are able to, feel free to turn to Psalm 2. We're going to read the psalm and then we're going to explore some thoughts on that together. So here we go. Psalm 2. Why do the nations rage and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against His anointed, saying, "Let us burst their bonds apart and cast away their cords from us." He who sits in the heavens laughs. The Lord holds them in derision. Then He will speak to them in His wrath and terrify them in His fury, saying, "As for me, I have set my king on Zion, my holy hill. I will tell of the decree. The Lord said to me, 'You are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your heritage, and the ends of the earth your possession. You shall break them with a rod of iron, and dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel.' Now therefore, O kings, be wise. Be warned, O rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest He be angry, and you perish in the way, for His wrath is quickly kindled. Blessed are all who take refuge in Him." There's some particular references and meanings in here, historical contexts and the like. Verse 1 to 3 refer to Gentile kings, so the kings of the earth, who are under the authority and rule of the Israelite king, that being David, and how they plan to revolt and throw off Israelite rule. But when you get to the core message, it's pretty relevant today and all throughout history. Those who choose to intentionally defy and rebel against God will not win. They won't last. In verse 2, where it says, the rulers of the world basically position themselves against the Lord and against his anointed. There's so much there. There's definitely the historical context. When you look at notable kings of Israel, Saul and David, they were both anointed by Samuel, which you can see in 1 Samuel chapter 10 verse 1 and chapter 16 verse 13, which ultimately signified they were anointed by God. They were set in place by him. To rebel against the king of Israel was to rebel against God, and was considered even more foolish because they were cutting themselves off from knowing God, from their only hope of knowing him. It's the same today, if not worse. It is so clear that there's such a dark opposition towards Jesus, the truth of who he is, and what he represents. There's such hatred towards God's ways and increasingly towards his people. Now, in the East, persecution has certainly been nothing new, but here in the West, as the embrace of things like abortion, homosexuality, gender reassignment, as it would be called, which is mutilation essentially, adultery, even physical assault and violence becoming more rampant, sexual promiscuity and exploitation as well, and so many other things that are ramping up. The more Christians speak against it, the more the responses become slanderous, vile, mocking, even violent. Jail time for speaking or countering against some issues is becoming very real in the West. But we also are, as we see mentioned here, his anointed. We are elect exiles passing through on our way home, heaven. We have a duty as Christians to proclaim the truth of Jesus, who is the anointed one. Even Psalm 2 points to him. Messiah, that word, comes from transliterating the Hebrew word for anointed, while Christ comes from translating anointed into Greek. So those who reject us, reject Christians, ultimately reject Messiah. As the powers that be in this world push against God at an alarming rate, perhaps this is the warning they need and the hope we can draw on. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and you perish in the way, for his wrath is quickly kindled. Blessed are all who take refuge in him. As you take some time to reflect on Psalm 2 for yourself, I would encourage you to ask God, pray, invite him to come and perhaps challenge you, show you, encourage you how he is wanting you to be more bold in your faith each day, how he is wanting you to more and more be brave and courageous in sharing the gospel and standing for truth and not allowing the world to overrun you, but allowing God to supercharge your faith and your life, that perhaps he would be using you in these moments in your spheres of life to bring his word, his truth, his life, and his gospel into the lives of those who desperately need him. I'd encourage you to pray on this for yourself, to reach out to him, to invite him in, and see where he takes you from here. I hope that this psalm will speak to you in some way, that God would speak through this psalm to you. And my prayer would be that whatever may happen from here, that you would completely know He is with you, He is present, that He would be working in your life day by day to bring you closer to Him, to strengthen your faith, and to build your courage in how you then go about showing your faith in this world and allowing it to shine through. I'm looking forward to catching you in the next episode as we look at another psalm. But until then, I hope that you go through the rest of your week knowing He is with you always, and that He would be continually building you up, and that you would always know His love for you, His care for you, and His grace for you. Take care. God bless.